Well, hello again there folks, this is Brian the 3 Topics Gamer, and I'm here to present the first matchup of my Season 5 versus series, where I'll be taking characters from some of the best franchises that I've enjoyed over the years and put them against each other to see who I believe would walk away the winner. Now, going into Season 5, there will be a number of changes taking place this season in an attempt to better improve the performance and quality of the series as opposed to the underwhelming performance of Season 4. Now, the first change that will be taking place this year is that the majority of matches that I'll be doing this year will be involving all new franchises that I have not ventured into over the past 4 years that I've been doing this series. The next major change that will be added to this season is the form of which I will be breaking down each character, and as I'm sure you can see from the link to this video, I'll be working to make these videos significantly shorter than what I'm sure some of you are most used to. Because these videos will be shorter, that means that I will not be going into as in-depth with each character as I normally would, but instead will be focusing on the elements of these characters that I deemed most significant to how I believe the actual fight would play out. But if there's something about a character that I didn't mention in the video, feel free to bring it up in the comments down below. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into Season 5. The first matchup of the season will have us venturing into the Mass Effect franchise for the very first time, as we will be pitting the Asari Commando Unit member and human biotic Cora Harper against the fourth most expert of Prothean technology and Asari scientist Liara Sony. Now, the reason I chose this particular matchup is very simple. Today just so happens to be Valentine's Day, and both Cora and Liara were my personal love interests for my respective playthroughs of the games, so pitting them against each other just seemed like the logical choice. Also, I'll be using these two as they are presented in their most developed stages in their lives that we can work with. So I'll be using Cora as she is at the end of Mass Effect Andromeda, and Liara as she is during the events of Mass Effect 3. To state my research sources, when it comes to Cora, I will be pulling from her appearances from the Mass Effect Andromeda game, as well as the novel Mass Effect Andromeda Initiation. For Liara, I'll be pulling my information from her based appearances in the Mass Effect trilogy, as well as her appearances in the Mass Effect comic book series Redemption and Homeworlds. Starting off with Cora, we don't really have much information regarding her upbringing, but the earliest information we do have on her states that as a child she was raised in poverty on an independent cargo freighter, but due to the ship accidents that took place in the 2150s, which caused massive amounts of Element Zero, which is a rare material that allows one to release dark energy that allows them to manipulate massive fields, which ultimately would end up granting Cora the ability to use biotics at a very young age. She would then join the military services at the age of 18 and would have to start off as an officer for the System Alliance military as part of their Valkyrie project, and would receive some basic training to make better use of Cora's biotic potential. For a time, however, but due to her exceptional high levels of biotic potential, this would encourage the higher-ups to transfer Cora to the elite Asari Commando unit named Talian's Daughters. Cora would spend several years and complete 2 entire tours fighting alongside her fellow Asari members, which composed of 8 members, with Cora being the only human biotic part of this unit, and would find themselves fighting against numerous threats to the Asari and would take part on operations on known planets such as Omega and Norris Astra, and defending Asari colonies attacked by the Geth. During this time, Cora developed strong friendships with every member of her unit, and this allowed her to not only develop her overall strength and usefulness as a biotic, but allowed her to develop a unique fascination with Asari culture and their ways, which is something that would remain as one of her key aspects of her character going all the way into the Andromeda Initiative. Thanks to her huntress training and experience with the Asari and her developed biotic capabilities, this made her a prime candidate to become Alex Rider's second-in-command and originally next in line to take the title of Pathfinder during the Andromeda Initiative. However, shortly after waking up from a 634-year-long cryosleep, Alex Rider would die on the first scouting mission, causing Alec to sacrifice himself to save his child, making them the next Pathfinder. Cora would feel somewhat uneasy with this decision at first, but would then come to respect Alec's decision. Following the young Rider's lead, she would become a crew member of the Andromeda Initiative survey ship called the Tempest, and would maintain her role as second-in-command to the Pathfinder and become the operations specialist in charge of ground missions for the crew. Now, when it comes to her equipment, though she has been seen using a multitude of different weapons, Cora's primary weapon is that of the M28 shotgun, which is obviously an effective weapon meant to be used at close ranges, and over time, Cora has successfully modified this weapon to fire cryo ammo that chills enemies. Skill-wise, being trained as an Asari Commando greatly enhanced Cora's physical strikes, and when combined with her biotic powers made her even more dangerous at close quarters combat. She also has enhanced defenses that grant her active barriers that can protect her from a good amount of damage, with one of her most impressive feats being able to deflect an entire barrage of projectiles from the Keth ship. And even though she was working alongside someone else in order to perform this feat, when you take into effect just how powerful Cora is, then not only is it unbelievable to state that Cora was contributing at least 50% of that barrier, but even only 50% of such a feat would still be an impressive display of biotic output. Now, when it comes to Cora's variety of biotic powers, it appears that she has adopted the mentality of focusing on only using a small collection of powers, but making sure to apply them only to produce maximum results. Her first power is that of a biotic shield boost that, when applied alongside her already established defensive training, allows Cora to project immense powerful barriers that not only protect Cora from just about any force attacks, but can withstand a lot of damage. Her second power is that of Nova, which is a biotic offensive attack that is best used at close ranges and emits a powerful shockwave that requires the user to drain the energy of their barriers in order to do high damage to all nearby enemies. Her third and final power is that of the biotic offensive attack called Charge. Now, as the name states, this power alters Cora's mass and launches her at an opponent, and upon impact it not only deals a massive amount of damage onto an opponent, but it also can restore some of Cora's own shield strength by the charge's end. Now, going over Liara to Sony, she is a purebred Asari who was born on her home planet of Thessia, and by the time we first meet her, claims to be about 106 years old, which means that by the events of Mass Effect 3 she would be 109, which, when compared to the average Asari lifespan, which can last about 1,000 years, classifies her as still being well within her maiden stage, which makes her barely an adult. From an early age, she was fascinated by the Protheans and would go on to become an Asari scientist. Her chosen career as an archaeologist would have her travel from multiple planets over the course of 50 years, and in 2183 she would make her way to the mining planet of Therum to study the Prothean ruins there, just shortly before a force of Geth would invade. Liara chose to hide within the catacombs, but would accidentally turn on a barrier curtain, which would leave Liara suspended until she was released by Commander Shepard, who needed her help gaining information. After joining Commander Shepard's crew on the Normandy SR-1, Liara would aid him in understanding a series of visions that he was receiving by using her mind melding abilities in an attempt to understand more about the renegade Spectre Saren and what he was up to, and would ultimately end up discovering that he was being manipulated by a Reaper called Sovereign, and even though Shepard would be successful in killing both Saren and Sovereign, this did not change the revelations that the Reapers would be returning. Soon after this event, the Normandy SR-1 would be attacked by a collector ship and critically damaged. Liara was able to escape the ship, but unfortunately Commander Shepard was not able to survive this encounter. 2 months after the Normandy S1's destruction, Liara, now working alongside her friend Farron, would manage to track down and retrieve the remains of Commander Shepard, and though her ally Farron would end up being captured and taken by the Shadow Broker, she was successful in retrieving the remains of Shepard and delivered them to Cerberus for a secret project. 2 years after delivering Shepard's remains to Cerberus, Liara would then become an information broker on Ilium, and though she did not rejoin Shepard on his mission for the Cerberus to fight against the Collectors, she did manage to enlist his help in order to track down the Shadow Broker and kill him, and after successfully rescuing Farron, decided to take over as the Shadow Broker and take control of his ship, believing that the amount of information that she could gain from the Shadow Broker's network of spies could be better used to aid Shepard on his mission, as well as prepare for the inevitable invasion of the Reapers. Shortly before the Reapers attacked Earth, Cerberus staged an assault on the Shadow Broker ship, forcing Liara and Farron to flee. Once the Reapers finally attacked Earth, Liara would discover blueprints to a Prothean device on the planet of Mars that could theoretically destroy the Reapers. But at the same time, a Cerberus force would arrive on Mars at the same time as Commander Shepard would arrive on Mars, and after escaping the planet with the blueprints would go on to rejoin Shepard's crew on the Normandy SV-2, and with Shepard leading the charge would eventually end up uniting all of the species to fight and eventually defeat the Reapers. Now, going into her equipment, by the time of Mass Effect 3, she mainly focused on using a submachine gun and a heavy pistol. Now, because a character's loadout is determined by the player, it's almost impossible to determine what weapon Liara favored. But by looking at images of the Norley SV2's armory and then looking closely at specific cutscenes for which we can see Liara using specific weapons, I was able to determine that her primary heavy pistol was the M3 Predator with a semi-automatic firing mode, holding a clip of 15 rounds, and her submachine gun was more than likely the M4 Shoryuken that had a clip of about 24 rounds. When it comes to breaking down Liara's collection of biotic powers, it's rather interesting to me that earlier on in her life, she seemed to have a much more expanded collection of powers to choose from, but as the games went on, she would begin focusing on using less and less of them, probably as a result of gaining on-field combat experience fighting alongside Commander Shepard and seeing how effective using a focused amount of smaller collection of powers when fighting as part of a squad can be. Because of this, by the time of Mass Effect 3, Liara's biotic powers were Singularity, which could cause a sphere of dark energy that trapped and dangled enemies in the air that are caught in its field for a few seconds, and when fully developed, could be detonated to cause a good amount of damage to the enemy. Stasis, which could instantly stop and hold an enemy in place with a powerful Mass Effect field, and though it does not cause any damage, it certainly can leave an enemy exposed to a follow-up attack. Warp allows Liara to rip an enemy apart on a molecular level and can even stop an enemy from regenerating health. And although when fully upgraded it can cause twice as much damage to barriers, the attack must first penetrate the barrier first before it can actually cause any physical damage to the enemy. With Liara having the ability to use warp, she also had the ability to apply warp energy to her ammo, which could cause the similar effects to the warp ability but on a much smaller but focused scale. So now that we have explored their background, skill sets, equipment, and biotic powers, it's time to determine which one of these lovely ladies I believe would take down the other. And the winner is going to be Cora. Cora is going to take the win here for a multitude of reasons. When one really breaks down these two as combatants, it is clear that their loadouts and collection of biotic powers best illustrates their approach to combat. Liara's focus is to keep her distance and wear her opponents down over time, while Cora is all about getting up close and delivering a quick and decisive knockout punch. And when one compares these two and determines which one of them is more powerful as a biotic, there is simply no question that Cora is significantly more powerful than Liara. Now, it's not to say that Liara is a weak biotic, but when compared to other Commander Shepard allies like Miranda, who was genetically engineered, Jack, who, like Cora, was an abnormally powerful human biotic, thought to be so dangerous that she had to be kept in cryogenic stasis after she was caught, and of course Samara, who, like Liara, is an Asari but is close to being 1,000 years old, which means that she has at a minimum 850 years worth of time to develop over Liara, who, by the time of Mass Effect 3, is nowhere near close to her full potential. It also doesn't help Liara that she has spent the later half of her life, that being about 50 years, being a scientist rather than a combatant, while Cora has spent 4 years fighting alongside and training with the Asari Commando unit, which openly is recognized as being the most elite class of Asari fighter within their entire race. And with Cora's levels of biotic power being so abnormally high, to the point where the Alliance military did not believe that they could maintain her and sent her to the Asari for them to develop, her squad members and the Talian's daughters did not go easy on Cora and made sure that she could hold her own alongside them, and over the course of her 2 tours, she earned her stripes. And having a good amount of time to work and fight alongside the Asari, and not only gave Cora a close education to their culture, but a better understanding of Asari biotic techniques and tactics. And while Liara too had training of her own during her early years, it is clear that it was nowhere near the level of intensity that it would require to become a member of the Asari Commandos. It's like comparing basic military training to the Navy SEALs. On top of this, when one considers that Cora was next in line for the rank of Pathfinder after Alex Rider, that means that Cora had to have one hell of a resume to even be considered for the position during the recruitment stage. Now, Liara certainly has experience fighting against Asari commandos, but this was only when she was fighting alongside Commander Shepard and other allies, and was taking a support role, which means that she would be significantly less effective if forced to fight on her own. When all is said and done, Cora is simply better suited to controlling this fight and ending it the way she wants. As for Liara, without Commander Shepard's leadership and the Commander's tactical mindset of knowing how best to use Liara in a supporting role, or without the aid of her allies, all Liara can do is fall back on very basic and formulaic Asari tactics and techniques, and that is something that Cora has already been trained and experienced and has the knowledge to contend with everything and anything that Liara throws at her. Now let's set this up. Without going into specifics or worrying about any timeline issues, let's just say that this encounter takes place while Liara is visiting her home planet of Thessia and right before Cora is to leave for the Andromeda Initiative. Cora happens to run into Liara while she's on her way to look at some Prothean artifacts, and she tells Liara that she is an Asari huntress and is looking for someone to have a final training session with. Understanding just how rare it is to encounter a human Asari huntress on Thessia, Liara agrees to this session, wanting to test her own skills and abilities, and she meets Cora in the training facility. The two take their respective positions about 30 yards away from each other as the room's holograms change the environment to a courtyard. Both immediately run into cover, and Cora starts off by making her way from cover to cover, closing the distance, and while she's doing this, Liara is now equipped with her M4 Shuriken submachine gun and begins firing at Cora, trying to keep her pinned at a medium distance, but none of the rounds connect because Cora is staying in cover. As Liara is loading her weapon, Cora moves once again from cover to cover, now putting her at about 20 yards from Liara, and being able to now start firing at Liara with her M28 shotgun, and though none of these rounds were meant to hit her, it is simply meant to keep Liara locked in her current position to discourage her from attempting a flanking maneuver, as well as letting Liara know that she is packing some serious firepower. Liara then fires a singularity attack in an attempt to raise Cora into the air, leaving her exposed to gunfire, but she immediately lays down flat on her back and keeps herself flat in cover while she combines her enhanced defenses with her barriers and shield boost to resist the pull of the singularity. And while Cora is locked in place, Liara cannot hit her with her weapon because she is still behind cover, so she begins to close this distance to about 10 yards while switching to her heavy pistol and begins moving to the side of Cora in an attempt to flank her. As the singularity begins to expire, Cora immediately sees what Liara is about to do and flank her, and she quickly jumps behind another angle of cover just in time to avoid Liara's gunfire. As Liara starts to reload, Cora decides it is now time to deliver the knockout punch, and she immediately jumps out of cover and begins running towards Liara, head to head. Liara sees this and almost simultaneously both begin to reach out with their hands, with Liara attempting to use stasis on Cora, but Cora is just a little bit faster and uses her charge attack, and it hits her directly, knocking her back. With such force, she suffers a tiny concussion, and though her barriers took the brunt of the damage, it still knocked her back pretty hard. As Liara begins to regain herself, Cora is already on top of her, and using her close quarters enhanced physical strikes that Liara's weakened barriers cannot protect her from, Cora immediately disarms Liara of her weapons and knocks her out, ending the fight. I declare Cora Harper, the Asari Commando and Huntress, the winner. And that concludes my very first Mass Effect matchup to kick off Season 5. Please let me know, do you agree that Cora is simply a better trained and more powerful biotic that can better counter and adapt to everything Liara has in her arsenal? Or do you believe that there is a unique and unpredictable maneuver that Liara could pull off to catch Cora off guard? Share your thoughts with me and everyone else and opinions in the comments down below, and if you could please like and share this video on all your social media outlets in order to spread the word and increase the viewership of the Versus series. And don't forget to subscribe and press the notification button to keep track of me and all my future matchup videos and other video game topics. Thank you guys for watching, you're awesome, and like always, here's a little review of my next month's Versus series matchup. I'll see you next time.